Hi. This month, the subject of forgiveness came up about 3 different times. 3 different people, 3 completely different situations, 3 completely different meetings. So I started to take note, and I thought I'd recap for you the highlights of a few of those conversations. So one of the things came up was the question, in order for our life to be considered a good life or a success, do we need to forgive everything and everyone? Good question. So I don't think there's anything we have to do. I don't think we have to do anything for our life to be a success. I think who we are is that already. But that doesn't mean that the subject of forgiveness isn't worth really taking a look at. Through these conversations that I had, we realized that there was so many different versions of it. So, for instance, there's the biblical version of forgiveness, turn the other cheek, all the other things that go with that, like the big definition that we probably all know and have heard. And then there's the version where if someone apologizes, then it's much easier to forgive, or that is a prerequisite for it. Then there's the version where we have to consider whether whatever happened deserves for forgiving or not. So that's an issue for some people. There's also the time heals everything, or enough time goes by that you forget and you kind of let go of it that way. So there's that version. And then there's also the kind where I think you say, no way, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to forgive, forget. And then somehow something happens, and it happens anyway. So those are the versions that we came up with this month. You will probably come up with your own. I don't think there's any lack of different versions that we could have. And the thing is that they're all subjective, because we are the only ones who decide all of that. How much, how long, what does it take, what person, all of that. I have a therapist friend who never gives up on the idea of something or someone being forgiven. So if you were in a conversation with him and you said, no way, no how, all of that, he would just say, okay, so that one's going to take a little longer. But it's never written off as it could never happen. I think that's a good attitude to have about it as well. I've taken that one to heart as well. In Tibetan, the translation for something that sounds like forgiveness translates to not always so, or meaning that things are changing all the time. So no matter what you say is a forever thing, or it can't happen, won't happen, it's not always so. And that's a good one to hold on to as well. Here's something that I thought I was never going to forget, and yet I did, and I remembered it again this month. So this was a lot of years ago. I went to a weekend seminar, and when we got there, we were asked different questions, had to fill out different forms, and one of them asked who or what we had not forgiven yet along the way, how long we had been carrying that around, where in our body we felt it when we think about that, on our shoulders, on our back, on our legs, dragging our feet, something like that. And also, if we had to describe how much it would weigh, if it was an object, if that situation or person or something we couldn't let go of was an object, how much would it weigh? So later in the day, unbeknownst to us, but as part of the workshop, they brought out this whole rack of clothing and accessories. So we had to dress in all of the different things that we had described. So before long, we were all wearing ankle weights, wrist weights, necklaces that weighed a lot, backpacks filled with sand, overcoats that had something sewn into the shoulders so that they really pulled you down, and the sleeves were really heavy, and there was heavy shoes. I mean, it was really quite an ordeal. And as you can imagine, we were asked if you could to walk around that way the rest of the day. Some of us, it was so much and so heavy that we couldn't. So then they gave us kind of like these carts, like a cart that you could carry around. So whatever you couldn't wear, you could put in the cart, but you still had to pull it along or carry it with you everywhere that you went. And if you couldn't do any of those things, then they gave us the opportunity to come up with other creative ways of getting rid of our burden. But mostly, there wasn't much we could do. We tried to talk other people that were there who had a lot less to carry around. We would try to talk them into carrying some of our stuff. But I mean, can you imagine? Here, carry this 50-pound weight or something for me for the rest of the day. So there weren't too many takers for that. So I can't remember too much else about that seminar workshop or why I went, but I do remember that exercise because we all got it. We all got the point, is that these ideas or burdens that we carry around, they have a physical, a mental, and an emotional effect on us. So at the end of the day, when we were able to take off all of this and felt so light and so amazing, the idea was to remind us that that's really what it does feel like when we do let go of burdens and things that are not worth carrying around, really. So that came up this month. I also thought about the last few weeks that I spent with my dad before he passed away some years ago. And on one of the days, I started thinking of different people that he knew, and I asked him if he would want to see this person or that person one last time, something like that. And mostly he would say, no, not really. It's not necessary. I feel okay about that. And then I don't really remember who I suggested, but I suggested one person in particular, and he sat up the best he could and said, no way in hell. Hell no, don't you dare bring that person here. And he was almost 91 at the time. And that had a really big effect on me too, because I thought, wow, still now when you think that someone would really want to be unburdened or let everything go, that much emotion or pain or whatever it was would still come up. And I thought to myself that I really did not want that to happen to me, not want to carry things around like that at all. And I think I come from, at least on one side of the family, I come from a long line of non-forgivers. So here and there in my life, I have vowed that I will not carry that forward. Whenever something comes up, I say it stops with me, or it stopped with them, and I'm not going to carry this forward, and I'm not going to pass it along to anyone else in my family or anything I can do about that as well. So those are some of the things that came up this month. as far as how to forgive or the process or procedures of how that happens, it happens. It's part of our journey. We're all unique. It happens in the way that it does, and I'm not sure that there's any right way to do it. Another example I can think of is I went to a live auction once or twice. Have you ever been to a live auction or silent auctions or different things? And so you find something that you think is interesting to bid on, and then someone else comes along and outbids you. So you bid a little higher, and then someone else potentially comes around and bids a little higher or a lot higher. And if you're careful enough not to get caught up in the frenzy of bidding, after a while you might realize that whatever it is that you think you want so very much might not be worth the cost by the time you go to pay for this. So if you're not completely caught up and obsessed in this experience that happens at auctions, you would maybe let someone else have it because it's really not worth it, or won't be worth it for very long. And so that's another way to think about these experiences as well. It may be worth it to be upset or angry or non-forgiving in the moment, but in the long run, it's not really. So there's a few things we can do. I mean, there's forgiveness, which a friend of mine calls vitamin F, and that's good whenever we can remember to take vitamin F every day. And there's also letting go, which is not exactly forgiving, but it's kind of self-empowering, because in letting go, no one has to do anything or say anything, including you. So there's the ability or the skill of letting go. And there is also moving on, which is like letting go, but it's more situational. You are willing to move on beyond that, whatever that was, and just keep going without having to refer to that. So it's more like about just getting past the situation as well. So those are a few things that go along with forgiveness that are worth trying, depending on who you are. And there's also reconciliation, which sounds like something that you do with two people to reconcile something, but the original meaning of the word really has to do with yourself. To reconcile something is to put yourself back together in a different way. So it's a shift in awareness is how we use it now by doing that. So the conclusion that I and we came to this month is that we are in this unique time, as we keep saying, that there's so much going on, so many different things to get caught up in, that whatever we can do to be unwilling to cause harm to ourselves or to others, if we can do that, that would be really great to do, not to add to anything else that's going on already. So those are my suggestions for you this month. Vitamin F, every day, letting go, moving on, reconciliation, and anything else that we do to bring awareness to ourselves, and joy, and nature, and each other. See you next time. Bye.